Welcome to the Holistic Kids Show. My name is Zane.
My name's Abdullah.
And my name is Maud.
We're the Holistic Kids, here to educate us kids from the inside out. We are also Muslims. I don't know if kids know what a Muslim is.
But a Muslim practices the religion of Islam. Islam is actually the second largest religion in the world after Christianity, with about 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide. The word Islam means submitting to the will of God, as we believe in one God, and is a religion of peace and taking care and helping others. That is why we are so passionate in this podcast, and this is our way of helping people. But over the last couple of years, the news and the media has made Muslims out to be up to no good. So that has influenced how Muslims have been treated in America. Actually, a study was done where 22% of Americans actually don't want Muslims as their neighbors, even though in Islam it teaches us to be good neighbors. And that is the one of the highest, and that percentage is the highest out of all of the religious groups. And so racism is a big problem and a huge problem for most of us minority groups in America. And we have the perfect person with us today, Ms Dalia Mogahed. Mogahed. Sorry. We first saw her on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and we knew we had to get her on our show. And guess what? She is finally here with us, and we couldn't be more honored. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be with you.
It's our pleasure.
It's our pleasure.
Dalia Mogahed is the Director of Research at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, where she leads the organization's pioneering research and taught leadership programs on American Muslims. Dalia is a former executive director of the Gallup Center for Muslim Studies, where she led the analysis of surveys of Muslim communities worldwide. With John L. Esposito, she co-authored the book Who Speaks for Islam? What a Billion Muslims Really Think. President Barack Obama even appointed Mogahed to the President's Advisory Council on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships in 2009. She was invited to testify before the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations about U.S. engagement with Muslim communities. Her 2016 TEDx Talk was named one of the top TED Talks of that year. And she is a frequent expert commenter in global media outlets, and she is also the CEO of Mogahed Consulting. Ms. Dalia, we know you are so very busy, so we are incredibly honored for you to join us today.
The honor is all mine. I'm so first of all, just thank you for making time in this podcast that I know usually takes on different topics to talk about Muslims and Islam and Islamophobia. I'm just really grateful that you did that.
Yeah, I mean, as Muslims, it was really amazing that we got to talk about this, our religion, and help speak up for people that basically are getting bullied because of racism in America and all over the world. So, what motivated you to do this amazing, needed work? We would love to hear your story.
Wow, that's a great question. So I, like you, grew up in the United States, namely in Madison, Wisconsin, not very far from where you guys grew up. And I attended public school and really just grew up like any other American. But I always had this feeling that I was just a little bit different. I had different holidays. I had different dietary restrictions when I was a child. And so I felt like it was important that people understood who I was. And so I started at a very young age to try to educate my fellow classmates on my faith and my culture. I'm originally from Egypt. And as I grew up, it became more and more important, more and more urgent to educate the people around me about who we were as Muslims and what we believed, because more and more as time went on, I noticed how many misconceptions there were out there about our faith. And it was really not only hurting me, but hurting really our country as a whole to have these misconceptions. And so in college, and that's kind of when I really started working on this more and more, I joined the college newspaper, and I started to write about these topics way back in the 90s. Okay, so ancient history. And I also started organizations or led organizations that already existed that dealt with Muslims around the world. It was just a passion of mine. It's what I just deeply cared about. But my studies were in engineering, so something very different. And it took really a turning point in my life with the horrific attacks of 9/11, where I decided to make educating people about Islam and Muslims not only what I did on the side as a passion project, but as my actual profession. And went to school to learn how to better communicate, and then joined a company called Gallup, where I eventually became the executive director of the Gallup Center for Muslim Studies. Got to write a book with one of my heroes growing up, John Esposito, and was appointed by President Obama as an advisor. So that's kind of how it all happened. It started as a passion that I worked very hard on, and then it became my profession. And the reason I do it and I care so much about it is because I think it's, first of all, something beautiful to share. And I think that not knowing about Islam and Muslims can really be used against the American people, where they are manipulated and lied to.
Yeah, and let's start from the beginning. What is racism and what is exactly Islamophobia?
Yeah, so racism is to have prejudice against someone because of their race, because of the color of their skin. Islamophobia specifically is when people are biased or prejudiced against people because they are Muslim. So it's a type of bigotry targeting Muslim people. And it's fueled by fear of Islam, by fear of Muslims. And that fear is based on misconceptions and stereotypes. That's why it's so important to know people, understand the truth of what they believe, and not fall into that kind of bigotry, which not only is immoral, but ultimately hurts our country and our freedom.
Yeah, and a lot of Islamophobia has been happening throughout ever since the beginning, since Islam first arrived in the Upper Asia and around Europe, right? Well, so it's been a problem for a long time, but it grew ever since the attacks of 9/11, where the media suddenly portrayed Muslims as terrorists, and this actually took a giant toll on a lot of people, even kids actually. Even kids are affected by Islamophobia. It's not, I mean, I have been affected by Islamophobia. And even kids, when they go to kindergarten or first grade, elementary school, this racism is everywhere.
You're absolutely right. I just want to tell you, it is actually impacting children. You're absolutely right. It's impacting kids. According to our research at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, half of Muslim families with kids in school say that their children have been bullied because of their religion. Half of Muslim families with children in school. And of those kids bullied, a third of them are bullied by their own teacher. So it is a huge problem, even for children.
Why do you think racism and Islamophobia is still a problem today, especially with so much knowledge today?
Yeah, it's something I think a lot of people are wondering about. The reason there's so much Islamophobia and racism, despite people having a lot of access to knowledge, is because there's so much misinformation out there. And where does that misinformation come from, you might be wondering? Well, a couple things. First, when you look at just mainstream media and you analyze the content of mainstream media, these are scientific studies where you're actually analyzing media portrayals and content. What you find is that 90% of news stories that deal with Islam or Muslims are negative. 90%. So this is not the case for other faith groups. This is not the case for even other countries, just other foreign countries. This is just the case for Muslim majority countries and Muslims in general. So if people are consuming news that is always negative about one group, they're going to form a negative opinion of that group. The other thing that you should know, even as kids, is there's something called the Islamophobia industry. Now, what's an industry? An industry is like a group of organizations or companies that produce a certain product, right? Like the dairy industry, they produce milk and cheese and things like that. This is Islamophobia as the product. They're literally churning out fear of Muslims and hatred of Muslims. And this is, again, also documented. There's a network of organizations and individuals that is their actual job. And they have access to hundreds of millions of dollars toward that goal. So it's a wonder, really, not why there's Islamophobia, but why there isn't more of it.
What would you say for someone who is dealing with racism or Islamophobia?
Well, I would say if you are dealing with this in your own life, in your school, or just wherever, first of all, know that it is not your fault, that there is nothing wrong with you. You are not the problem. The problem is the person who is bullying you or calling you names or has this negative attitude toward you and your culture, your color, your belief system. They are the problem, not you. So first of all, don't believe anything they say about you. Do not internalize those insults. They're not true. The second thing I would tell you is you need to tell someone who is responsible. Don't just take it. Tell your parents, tell your principal, tell your teacher if it's not your teacher doing it. Tell an adult, tell someone so they can help you, so they can hold that person accountable and make them stop. The third thing I would say to do is to reach out to your friends. Don't ever let that bully make you feel isolated. You're not alone. You are the majority. Most Americans want to live in a country where no one is targeted for their religious or racial identity. So you're in the majority. This person who's picking on you or making you feel bad about yourself is the one who is outnumbered. So don't let them make you feel alone or isolated. You are strong and they are weak. Don't forget that.
Yeah, and a lot of Islamophobia comes from the fact that people, they don't understand Islam. They just listen to the media, as you were saying. But even a lot of people, they think the hijab is oppression, right? And all of that Islam is oppression, but really, even though Islam means peace. And these people, they don't go looking into Islam to find out what it really is, and just state their opinions by what it looks like and other people think. So what is your best advice of being Muslim in America, and how can we be best represent?
The best advice about being Muslim in America is to be yourself, is to be your genuine, beautiful self, and let the world see who you are. Embody the values of your beautiful faith, the values that we are called to, the example of our messengers. And that is all you have to do to represent, is just go out and shine. Let the world see your light. You don't have to put on a special posture. You don't have to feel like you have to be perfect. You are already a beautiful human being, and all you have to do is be yourself and let people see you and see the light in your heart. Now, to be that beautiful Muslim human being, you have to establish a strong relationship with God. And that is really what you should focus on. And that's the best way to represent, is actually to do what everyone should do, even if they lived in a cave by themselves and not a single other human being would ever see them, is to strengthen and deepen their relationship with God, get to know God personally, make him the center of their world, and make his gaze the most important, gaze, right? Who's watching me? God is. And I need to represent for him. I need to be the best I can be because he's seeing me. And if you make God primary in your life, if he's the one that you care about and his opinion is the most important, I guarantee that people will look at you and they will see the light in your heart and they will love you. I mean, this is one of the things we believe, that when you make God the most important priority, he will make everyone around you love you.
And another big thing to know is that if you want to learn about Islam, there's a lot of people out there, Muslims, that will tell you the wrong thing. People, you have to find reliable sources that will actually tell you. Like there's a lot of people that will say that, oh, Islam is this, Islam is we jihad and all of this stuff. But really, Islam can only be learned from one thing, which is the Quran. So in order to learn Islam, open up the book for yourself and learn for yourself, and go to your local mosque, and also learn about it and they will help you answer your questions. Just be careful about who you're talking to, and don't get all of your answers from Google.
We would love
Very
to
good
know.
advice.
We would love to know more about your organization and what we kids can learn from it.
Sure. My organization is called the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding, and we do research on the American Muslim community. So it is a research and education organization that just wants to make sure that conversations and decisions regarding Muslims in America are well informed, are based on evidence and facts. So all of the things that you do on your podcast to make people educated and informed about their health and about nutrition, we do sort of the same thing, but about the American Muslim community, so that people know who American Muslims are and the policy issues and the social issues that impact them. So I would go to our website, www.ispu.org, where you can find a wealth of information and toolkits and graphs and infographics that will teach you all about Muslims in America. There are toolkits for media professionals, for educators, for policymakers, for religious leaders. It's all there and it's all free. So I would encourage everyone to visit our website and join our mailing list.
That is amazing.
Amazing.
And another big problem is Islamophobia within the Muslims. A lot of youth and people and Muslims that are born Muslim are actually afraid of their own religion.
Yeah.
Which is a big problem, considering the fact once they're afraid of their own religion, then they seek answers and they try to find a better religion, even though there is no better religion. For those that are seeking, so basically, even Islamophobia has affected the Muslims, which is why it's important for them to look inside the Quran, read it, actually think about it, process it, and use their knowledge to come up with the best decision. Because, like our God said, there's nothing that can rival. Try to bring something as good as this, even though that is basically impossible.
That is amazing. What is your best advice on what teachers can do to help combat racism?
Such a great topic, because we do have this issue, as you know, with bullying and even teachers being bullied. So the first thing teachers can do is educate themselves about their students, about who they are and what they believe. And if they have Muslim students, that's even more important. But even if they don't, this is the second largest religion in the world. I would argue the largest religion, because Catholics and Protestants, you might consider them, if they're two separate things, then Muslims are definitely by far the largest. But however you do it, 1.8 billion people is a lot of people. And so your students need to understand. And the first thing is for you to educate yourself from reliable sources, from books in the library, and well researched articles and so forth, not products from the Islamophobia industry. So first thing is to educate yourself. The second thing is to educate your students about the contributions of Muslims in America. We have at ISPU a wonderful resource for you. You can find it at muslimsforamericanprogress.com. And it's full of wonderful information about the contributions of American Muslims to our country's prosperity, ingenuity, compassion, and the list goes on and on. Muslims contribute so much and have such a long history in the United States, dating back to even before Columbus. So it's very important that educators teach this history and teach these modern contributions to their students, because it's we're living in a global village. And even if you might say there aren't any Muslims in my classroom or even in my city, well, that's very rare that would be the case. But even if it is, you have to prepare your students to function in a global village where they will interact with people in college, for example, from all backgrounds. And this is how we prepare them to be great global citizens.
What is your go-to advice on how each one of us can aid in creating peace?
How each one of us can aid in creating peace. What a lovely idea. I think what we can all do to create peace is to treat each other the way that we want to be treated, meaning I'm going to treat you the way that I would like God to treat me. So if I want God to be merciful to me, I'm going to be merciful to you. If I want God to be kind to me, I'm going to be kind to you, even if you're not kind back. I'm not even expecting anything in reciprocity. I'm not expecting anything in return. I'm going to treat you the way I hope God will treat me. If I want God to forgive me, I'm going to forgive you. If I want God to be generous with me, I'm going to be generous with you. And that's how it works. We treat people the way we want God to treat us. And if we do that, not expecting anything in return, we will create peace.
That is so inspirational.
So
Thank you so much.
And that's exactly right. Peace. I mean, so that is something that a lot of people don't associate to Islam, even though it's the core piece of it. Peace is so amazing because our prophet, the last one, he taught peace. So we should be just like him and also teach peace.
You're doing such an amazing work. How do you keep you and your family healthy?
Well, I get a lot of help from your mom, first of all. She's giving us a lot of great advice. But I stay healthy and I keep my family healthy by spending a lot of time outside. I love to go hiking. I love to just be in the sunshine. I try to get exercise every day. And I try to eat wholesome foods and make the same kinds of meals for my family that allows them to thrive, be healthy, lower their stress, and just be able to tackle the tasks of the day with a clear head.
Yeah, and that's actually a key part of Islam as well, using your brain and not just following blindly, which is actually a big misconception that Muslims will just follow blindly whatever their religion says. But really, if you want to understand the religion and follow it properly, you have to think about it, and you can even question it. You can even question the religion. And that is actually a big that's actually really helpful because when you ask questions you will get answers, and that will strengthen your faith and help you become a better Muslim.
Where can people learn more about you and your work?
People can learn more about my work at www.ispu.org. That's the organization for which I am the director of research. And you can learn more about me by following me on my social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dalia Mogahed or D Mogahed.
Thank you so much, Ms Dalia. This was such a huge honor.
That is so empowering. Everyone, make sure to follow Ms Dalia on social media. She is such an inspiration. Thank you so much, Ms Dalia. This was a huge honor, like we said. Let's recap Ms Dalia's key points.
Racism and Islamophobia is still a problem in today's world. Even though it's starting to get better, we still have so much to learn. Islam is a religion of peace. If you are dealing with Islamophobia, you are not the problem. Tell someone about your issues so they can help you, and be your genuine self. Embody the values of your beautiful faith. Go out and shine and let the world see your light. And this advice is perfect for everyone. Remember, focus on establishing good relationship with God and be grateful, because that is so important. Remember, treat people how you want to be treated, and there is something everyone can do to make things right. We all have our little part in this world, as one drop can create that ripple effect that can change the world inside and out. It might take time, but it will be worth it at the end.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Zansari.
I'm Abdullah.
And I'm Imad.
Follow my family and I on social media, Holistic Mom D, and look out for my mom's book, The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Chronic Inflammation and Disease, and the amazing children's book we wrote together called Adam's Healing Adventure. So check it out on Amazon. Yay! Her new favorite book, The Quranic Prescription, came out and is a global bestseller. So make sure to check that out too. We love wellness products. Because they contain only safe, natural ingredients that work better than their conventional alternatives. We especially love the kids' toothpaste without any fluoride, filters, or toxic additives. This toothpaste is full of powerhouse ingredients for our growing smile. Use the link to get 10% off of all the orders by using the code HOLISTICKIDS.
And check it out in the description of this podcast. Also, if you didn't know, this podcast has been sponsored by Wellness. Someone we actually interviewed it on this show who was an amazing person to talk to. Remember, kids need to learn from other kids.
Kids need to learn from other kids, as he said. Please download our podcast in iTunes and leave a review so other kids and families can benefit. We need to work together to create a healthy future for all of us and the planet. Join us next week for another episode of the Holistic Kid Show. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for